This one I'm not sure it's gonna be a quick one, but let us give it a try. But anyways, these are called your splines right here. Let me undock it and let us drag it onto the side like we usually do. So with these are splines, as you can see, and I'm just gonna be going over a few of them. The very first one we'll be playing with is the freehand. So working with splines, ideally I wouldn't advise you anything from like the freehand Bezier, B-spline, Akima, Cubic, Linear, anyone that just has extra points, as you can see them, in such a way that you feel like they can be easily manipulated. I would say don't work on them in a perspective view because you're just gonna lead you astray. But for anyone from the circle downwards, I think you can manageably still work with them in your perspective view, and you'll see what I mean by. So when I put on the freehand, now we already have the freehand tool, right? So let's say you want to draw a spline. Just watch. You see that now we have a spline in the viewport. But if I go back to my move tool, so now it's gonna be so hard for me to say where exactly this spline is, but if I were to, let me rotate it, see, it just, you can easily just guess misled, and you wouldn't know where what is what. And same thing for, okay, I'll leave that, but let us change the view, as you can see now. Okay, so now we already drew it in the perspective view, right? But if you see now in the front view, it's very easy for me to just move this way, and on the top view I can easily just move it, like it's so easy that way. So now imagine you trying to do that in your perspective view. So you can see the advantage of switching to either of these views. So that is that with freehand. It's really probably not the best one you want to use. Ideally I will go with the Bezier or the B-spline. Let us give them a try. Okay, now we're on the Bezier. With the Bezier, you just kind of think of it like you're in Photoshop and you're trying to draw a Bezier curve. So now let's say we're trying to write S. Sorry, I really suck at this. And to stop your line drawing, just right click on it. You would see break tangent. Oh my god, I'm sorry, not break tangent. I don't know why it's not right clicking. Sorry guys. Actually, I think you can just let me see. It's probably broken the tangent off already. So this already broke it, but I still have to find out how exactly you should do that. But so with the Bezier curve, it helps you to still have more flexibility as far as like tweaking your curve. So you can see now we didn't start with a good S, but as you can see now we're able to like move things around and just tweak it to however we want. And as you can see here, now I'm selecting here in the front view, right? So imagine I want to move part of that S to the side here in the top view. You can see the difference. So now they are not more on the same plane, but in the front view we can still see it as a S. So this for viewport does really come in handy, and you can also see how the Bezier curve works. Let us delete that. Let us go with the B-spline. On the B spline, probably not. This one doesn't disconnect. So what this does is, now you've drawn your lines, it doesn't really show, right? But you can see it's created some points where you can always, sorry, I'll undo that. I'll just click on my move tool. It's disconnected it. It's just created some point that you can use to manipulate your entire spline. So as you can see, I'm able to tweak that. Let's move this to the back a little bit. So that's how the B-spline works. Okay, so that's it for the B-spline. Akima, you can always play with all that, but I'll say let us move on to these other ones here. And by the way, they all have the names that they call them, but I'm just really bad at these names. So let us go on to circle. So you remember when I was talking about the fact that from the ones from the circle, you can work with them in the perspective view easily compared to these other ones on top. As you can see, if you drop the circle, it's just gonna drop an actual circle, but it's spline, so it's easier to work with. You can see what you're working with easily compared to the other ones on top. But doesn't have to say that you can use your other viewport. I mean, you will always need the other viewport anyways, depending on what or however it is that you're working on. So this good thing with this one is if you come to the attribute, they have their coordinates. I'm sure you all know what that is, but you see where you see object. So this is where you're gonna have fun with it, because you can easily just change it to whatever you want. You see, I click on ellipse. You can change the radius. See that? You can change the Y radius, shape like an egg. Let me uncheck ellipse. You can click a ring. A ring just creates another smaller circle in Word, and it also has its own parameter. You can scale it up or scale it down. You can change the orientation as far as how it's looking in the viewport. You can always reverse it as well. The points, you can also, they all have different types. You have natural, uniform. I don't think they get to do anything now, not until you actually work on them. So put it back to natural. But you can also change the number. Cool. Sorry guys, I've also not done this stuff in a while, but as we move on, I'll be sure to show you guys some really cool stuff. Okay, so that's that with circle. Let us delete that. Arc, it also has different types that you can play with. You can also change the arc radius, as you can see. Let me change the viewport back to perspective. Always change the orientation. As you can see, it's on the floor now. You can change the start angle, end angle. It's pretty intuitive. Really cool stuff. Let's see back. Let us go to rectangle. Rectangle, you can change the width, you can change the height, you can change it to rounding, so it gives some bevel here. Change the plane, that's the orientation. What else is there? You can reverse it. You can see the point as well. What else is there? Let's play with star. Star is pretty interesting. You can always reduce the radius, inner, outer, change it to the kind of star that you want. It's imagine this could even be a circle, and before you know, you can animate it to become something else. Let us play with animation a little bit. You can see the timeline here. On 0 you have the circle to be this radius, and if I right click on it, animation, say add keyframe, you can see it's already circle. Or if you want to do it, you can always click on this red key right here. It stands for keyframe, and for you to know you already have a keyframe somewhere, you will see this right here. So now let us go to say frame 40, and let us change the radius to a larger radius. Now I'm gonna click on here. It's giving me another keyframe right there. So now I really don't know what happened there. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry guys again. I totally forgot we're working on version 12 because it's totally different. I promise you, not that I don't know what I'm doing. The way you keyframe in version 12 is different because it's been a older version of Cinema 4D. Anyways, you can just right click keyframe, add keyframe. So you need to increase. Always make sure you increase or do whatever, because when it's on yellow it only shows it's active for you to keyframe, but it doesn't mean it's been keyframe. So I'll add keyframe to that, so it's already, so it stored this this on this particular frame as this radius, but if we go back to the beginning, it stored it as that. So now let us play. You can see that it increases like that. So you can always play around with any of all these parameters here. So let us clear the keyframe here. I'll just right click on it, go to keyframe, delete track. Now it's deleted the track, but it doesn't mean it's deleted it here. You can also delete it from here. Right click on it, and that's it for the star. Another very important one here is the text tool. So for the text, the text spline, I said text too. So for the text spline, you can always change the kind of text. Let us write line ray. So now you see it changes it to line ray. You can always change the font type to whatever font. Oh my god, I've not used this in a while. Totally forgot how it works. You can always change, as you can see, I changed the font there. Change the font again. Let's use Tutorial bold. See, it changes that. You can always align it to either ways, left, middle, or right. I'll give it on middle. You can change the height however you want. You can change the horizontal spacing. You can change the vertical spacing. That will work if you had another text beneath it, so horizontal, vertical. You can always change the orientation to however you want it to. It also has the intermediate point. So that's pretty much it with the text spline, and try to play with other spline tools that you have. Pretty interesting. That's it for this tutorial, and I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial. Make sure you ask any questions that you have, and I'll catch you guys in the next class. Ciao ciao.